This is the only cologne guide you'll ever need as a beginner. Not hype, not trends, not top 10 beast mode fragrances. By the end of this masterclass, you'll understand the three fragrance lanes that cover almost every situation in your life. And I'll show you how just three well chosen bottles can replace a chaotic 10 bottle collection. You will know what type of fragrance fits your life, how many you actually need, when to wear each one, how much to spray, why some scents get compliments and others don't, and how to stop wasting money. But before that, have you ever walked into a store, sprayed five different bottles, and after 10 minutes, you thought, what am I even smelling anymore? That's not your fault. You were never taught the system. Today, we fix that. Most men don't fail with fragrance because they buy bad scents. They fail because they buy without understanding context. And context is everything. Let me explain what usually happens. A guy discovers a sweet winter fragrance. He loves it. It smells amazing in the air. So what does he do? He wears it everywhere. Summer, office, daytime meetings, family lunch. Then he wonders why people don't react the way he expected. Or the opposite happens. He buys five fresh fragrances because they're safe. Then he complains that nothing lasts at night. Nothing feels special. Nothing gets attention. And he thinks the fragrance is weak. But the fragrance isn't the problem. The situation is. Let me ask you something. When you choose clothes, do you wear the same outfit to the gym, a wedding, and a job interview? Of course not, because you instinctively understand context in clothing. But for some reason, when it comes to fragrance, most men think, if it smells good, I can wear it anytime. That's the mistake. Fragrance is invisible clothing, and just like clothing, it needs to match the environment. Here's something even more important. Fragrance isn't about smelling strong, it's about smelling appropriate. And those are two very different things. Strong can be impressive, appropriate is attractive. Strong can enter a room before you do, appropriate makes people want to step closer. Which one do you think creates better reactions? Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men aren't building a fragrance wardrobe. They're collecting random bottles. There's no structure, no rotation logic, no seasonal awareness, just impulse buying. And that's why they feel confused. If you ever thought, why doesn't this perform the way people said it would? Or, why does this smell amazing on someone else but not on me? Good. That means you're paying attention. Because once you understand context, performance makes sense. Reaction makes sense. Your choices make sense. And in the next chapter, I'm going to simplify this into three clear lanes that remove 90% of the confusion. Stay with me because this is where it clicks. There are only three fragrance lanes you need to understand as a beginner. Three, not a shelf full, just three lanes. Once you understand them, everything becomes simple. Let's break it down. Fresh fragrances are your baseline. Think citrus, clean water, light woods, air. This is what you wear when you want to smell sharp, safe, and put together. Work, school, meetings, the gym, family gatherings. For example, fragrances like light blue, CK1, or Ludize sit in this lane. Notice something about them? Let me ask you something. If someone walks past and thinks, it smells clean, is that ever a bad thing? Almost never. Fresh scents create comfort, and comfort builds trust. But don't confuse fresh with weak. Fresh done right feels effortless, and effortless confidence is powerful. If you're starting from zero, this is your first bottle because it works in most situations in your life. Now ask yourself, if you had an important meeting in 1 hour, which lane would make the most sense? Exactly. Now we enter the sweet lane. Vanilla, amber, spice, warmwoods. This is presence mode. Fragrances like Stronger With You Intensely, 9 p.m. Elixir, or Khamra live here. They project more. They feel richer. They create warmth around you. It's perfect for cold weather, evenings, dates, night events. But here's the maturity test. Have you ever been trapped in a small space where someone clearly oversprayed something sweet? It doesn't feel attractive. It feels overwhelming. Sweet fragrances are powerful. You used it correctly? Magnetic. Used without control? Too much. Let me ask you something. If you're going on a date at night, do you want to smell like fresh laundry or warm, inviting energy? That's the emotional difference. Fresh creates cleanliness, sweet creates intimacy. Different moments, different tools. Now we move to the bridge lane. This sit between fresh and sweet. They have projection, they have character, but they don't go extreme. Fragrances like Eros Flame, Club de Nuit Intense Man, or Supremacy Collector's Edition fall here. They're confident, they're noticeable, but not heavy like dessert. These are perfect for casual nights out, birthday parties, dinner with friends, events where you want to stand out slightly. Now, let me ask you something. If you only had three fragrances, one for daytime, one for colder nights, and one for social versatility, wouldn't that make more sense than owning seven bottles that all smell similar? That's the blueprint. Three lanes, clear purpose, no overlap, smart rotation. And later in this masterclass, I'll show you how to build that trio properly. But before that, we need to clear up something that confuses almost everyone. Now let's clear up one of the most misunderstood things in fragrance. Eau de toilette, eau de parfum, and parfum. Most beginners assume this. Parfum is strongest. EDP is better than EDT. So I should always buy the highest one. But that's not how it works. These labels refer to oil concentration, where generally EDT is lighter, EDP is more concentrated, parfum is more concentrated. Higher concentration often means longer wear on skin, but concentration does not automatically mean better. Let me show you. This is an EDT, typically fresher, more open, more energetic in the first hour. Now look at this. This is an EDP, more concentrated, often richer, usually smoother in the dry down. Now finally, this is a parfum, denser, more refined, often longer lasting on skin. Now here's the key. These are not weak, stronger, strongest. They are built for different experiences. Let me ask you something. If you're going to the office at 9 a.m., which one feels more appropriate? Exactly. Now, if you're going out at night in the cool weather, different answer. And that's because concentration affects longevity, but composition affects personality. And personality matters more than strength. Here's something most beginners don't know. Higher concentration doesn't always mean louder projection. Sometimes parfums sit closer to the skin but last longer. EDTs can sometimes project more in the first hour, so louder and longer are not the same thing. Never buy a fragrance just because the label sounds premium. Buy it because it fits the moment. Context beats concentration every time. And in the next chapter, I'll show you something that affects how strong you smell even more than concentration. How much you spray. Now let's talk about something that causes more problems than the fragrance itself. How many sprays? And here's the honest answer. There is no universal number. Anyone who tells you always spray 3 times is oversimplifying because spraying depends on three things: the fragrance strength, the environment, and your personal preference. Now, yes, as a general guide, fresh fragrances can handle more sprays. Sweet, dense fragrances usually need fewer. But here's something important. I personally spray around 8 times for a fresh fragrance. Why? Because fresh scents are lighter, they're airier, they don't sit heavy. 8 sprays of a light, fresh fragrance is not the same as 8 sprays of a thick winter scent. Context matters. Let me ask you something. If you're wearing a fresh fragrance outdoors during the day, is 8 sprays aggressive? Not really. But 8 sprays of a dense, sweet fragrance inside a small office? That's different. Here's the principle: the stronger and denser the fragrance, the more controlled you should be. The lighter and fresher the fragrance, the more flexible you can be. But you decide. Not YouTube, not TikTok, not a random comment section. You decide based on awareness. Now, here's another important thing beginners forget: you can always respray. If you're wearing a fresh fragrance to work and it fades after 4 or 5 hours, you don't need to overspray in the morning. Just carry a small decant. You can reapply lightly. That's smarter than dumping 10 sprays at 8 a.m. and hoping it survives until 6 p.m. Let's talk placement. Warm areas help diffusion. Sides of the neck, back of the neck, optional one on the chest. And here's the mistake. People say, I can smell it anymore. That doesn't mean it's gone. That is nose fatigue. Your brain adapts to your own scent. Other people can still smell you. So don't panic spray. Spray with intention. Let me ask you something. Do you want people to discover your scent when they get close? Or do you want to announce yourself before you enter the room? That choice determines your spray count. And one last thing: use unscented deodorant. Layering 5 scented products doesn't make you elite, it makes you confusing. Clarity beats chaos every time because fragrance isn't about being loud, it's about being intentional. And in the next chapter, we're going to talk about something that affects performance even more than spraying: climate. You can wear the right fragrance, spray the right amount, choose the right concentration, and still get confused by performance. Why? Because weather changes everything. Hot and humid environments amplify fragrance. Heat increases diffusion. That means projection becomes stronger. Sweet fragrances become heavier, denser, more noticeable. Let me ask you something. Have you ever worn a sweet fragrance in extreme heat and suddenly it felt louder than usual? That's not the fragrance misbehaving, that's physics. Now let's flip it. Cold weather slows diffusion. Fragrances sit closer to the skin. Fresh citrus scents may feel weaker in cold air. They don't travel as far. But sweet and warm fragrances, they shine in cold weather. They cut through the air. They feel cozy, controlled, intentional. That's why winter scents feel magical in the cold. Now here's the deeper layer: skin chemistry. The same fragrance can smell slightly different on two people, and that's completely normal. It's because your skin has natural oils, hydration levels, body temperature, even diet influence. All of that affects how fragrance develops. Let me ask you this. Have you ever smelled the fragrance on someone else and thought, that smells incredible? Then you spray it on yourself and it feels different? That doesn't mean your choose wrong. It means skin chemistry exists. And here's the mistake beginners make. They judge a fragrance in the first 10 seconds. That's alcohol blast. That's opening citrus. The sharp top notes. That's not the fragrance. That's the introduction. Fragrance evolves. Top notes, heart notes or the middle notes, and the base notes. It tells a story over time. If you spray and decide instantly, you're judging the trailer, not the movie. Here's a smarter approach. Spray on skin. Wait at least 15 to 20 minutes. Then evaluate. Judge the dry down. Because that's what people around you will mostly smell. Because once you understand this, performance makes sense. Reaction makes sense. Your choice makes sense. And now, in the final chapter, we bring everything together in a simple blueprint. This is all you need. Not 10 bottles, not hype lists, not impulse buys. 3. Start with one fresh fragrance. Wear it consistently. Don't rotate. Don't rush. Wear it to work, to school, to the gym, to family gatherings, and pay attention. How long does it last on your skin? How does it behave in heat? Do people lean in? Do they compliment? Do they react at all? Learn from it. Because fragrance isn't just something you wear, it's something you understand. Once you understand your baseline, then add one sweet or denser fragrance. Use it at night, in cold weather, on dates, on occasions where presence matters. Notice how the energy shifts. Notice how reactions change. Fresh creates comfort. Sweet creates intimacy. That contrast teaches you more than any review ever will. Then, and only then, add one versatile fragrance. Something that sits between the two, not too light and not too heavy. This is the social weapon. Now, look at what you've built. Day, night, social. And you're covered completely. Let me ask you something honestly. Do you really need 12 fragrances right now? Or do you just need clarity? Most beginners don't lack options, they lack structure. 3 lanes, clear purpose, and that's the system. And once you understand that, you can expand intelligently. But until then, 3 bottles is power, not limitation. Mastery is not owning more, it's knowing when to stop. If you've made it this far, you now understand fragrance better than most beginners ever will. Not because you memorized the notes, but because you understand the system. Let's recap what you now know. You know what type of fragrance to buy: fresh for daily life, sweet for presence, versatile for social energy. You know how many you actually need. Not 12, not 20, it's only 3. You know when to wear each one: day, night, social. You know how much to spray and how to adjust based on strength and environment. You know why some fragrances get compliments and why others don't. Because compliments don't come from loudness, they come from appropriateness. And most importantly, you now know how to stop wasting money. No more blind buying just because something is trending. No more assuming parfum is automatically better. No more spraying 10 times because you can't smell it. That's clarity. And this is just the foundation. On this channel, we break fragrance down the right way. How to make scents last longer without overspraying. How to avoid fakes and spot red flags. Why beast mode culture is misunderstood. How to build a smart collection without draining your wallet. And how to think, not just buy. If you value structure over hype, subscribe. We're not chasing trends here. We're building understanding. And if you're serious about building your first proper rotation, comment how many bottles you currently own. Are you at 3? Or are you still in chaos mode? I read the comments. Let's build this properly.